Aloha. Hi, everybody. Thank you guys so much for coming. We are still under lockdown, so we still have sweet little baby Cameron. So there will be times when one of us may have to step away. Mwah. But we are so glad. I love seeing everybody who's in the chat. This is fantastic. So if you are wondering how to get in on the chat, because we do want you to be able to ask us questions. We have a game plan of what we want to get through today. However, we love answering questions, so we will definitely, stop for a little bit in order to answer them. But we want to say thank you so much to the Twin City Ukuleles folks for having us. We are so excited. Tony, thank you again for reaching out to us so that we could be able to join you, even if it's just virtually and not necessarily in person. Hopefully, we can meet in person again. Or, well, we've met Tony before, but hopefully we can come up and meet all of you guys in person and come up to Minneapolis would be really awesome. So, as I said, we have kind of a game plan. You can feel free to ask questions. If you don't know how to ask questions, you need to make sure that you are signed into your YouTube account or create one. It's free. And then you will be able to then join the chat window to be able to ask us questions. Because again, just like with any workshop, if there's something that you want us to clarify, or even if it's hold on, I have issues with, my left hand being able to do bar chords or something like that. We are definitely here to help you. So it's all pretty exciting. And for those of you that don't know, this is our son Cameron. He is 3 months old, and he is definitely a bright spot and a joy. Now, he does look ready to sing into the mic, doesn't he? I like that. Yes. Mwah. We think he's pretty darn cute too, but we're partial since we're his folks. Yes. Aw, thank you guys for such sweet comments. I love being able to see everything. Oh, and I even see we have somebody from San Diego joining us. Oh, funny. Hi, Sarita. He actually cannot see himself, but he's looking at my laptop because I have the chat open so that I can see, but I don't necessarily have the video up of me, just the chat to make sure I can read and see everything you guys have to say. Hi, Wendy.
And you can't see my face just yet, but I did want to say hi. And really, I know a lot of you caught our our festival that we're still recovering from
Yes.
last week. But thank you guys so much for joining in today. Let me see. Now there's no pad. There's let me switch cameras for a second. So for today, we are working with Twin Cities Youth Club, and we'll be doing some work on the iPad. We're gonna be saving those as PDFs that you can then get after we're done. So, how are we gonna do that? Are we doing?
Well, through our website, we could do it.
Okay.
I'll have a special, I'll create a special page for it, and I'll post it. We'll post it at the in the description of this. I think what it'll be is craigandsarah.com/Twin Cities. And I'll create that site so that you can then go to it and download the notes that we write out today.
Yeah. So today, after we answer a few questions, our main kind of schedule for tonight is going to be. And we got so many emails talking about this left hand, and I had people write that for the first time in a long time, or even ever, they were able to start playing chords without feeling any kind of pressure or pain. So I'm going to take just 10 minutes this time so I can slow it down. I'm going to talk about the left hand, how to play without hurting yourself. If there's people that are having trouble with B flat, let me know in the chat and we'll go over B flat the simplest and easiest way. We'll talk about bar chords a bit. Oh, hi, Melanie. And all of these live things that we're doing have we've been able to branch out and to try so many different ideas, and we're actually going to be doing a couple tech rehearsals the next couple Saturdays before the next big mini fest. But we also have a very special concert that we're putting together for Westwind, and we'll have details about that on our webpage and our mailing list soon about that. We'll have some very amazing guests to perform for you that night. Yeah, okay. So if there is B flat,
B flat 7, yep,
we'll
that's a
definitely talk
tricky one.
about that then. Yes,
Yes.
this shirt you can find. What is Ben's page?
I think if you go to Mighty Uke Day, Ben Hassinger, who runs Mighty Uke Day as well as Midwest Uke Camp and Uketoberfest up in the UP, that's actually a shirt from him, from his website. So I think if you go to the Mighty Uke Day website, you'll probably be able to find it. But I can also, while I have the technology in front of me with the laptop, I can look it up and post it in the comments just here in a sec.
Awesome. Now let's. I need to turn off this fan because I'm actually getting kind of cold. One second. Oh. Ooh, excuse me. Okay. Now there is a very very slight chance that we'll be splitting this workshop tonight into two parts, depending on how Cameron does. He had
Yes.
a really rough night last night.
Yes, he did.
So we're all kind of doing our best to just.
I'm just hoping that he, keeps his cool in front of the cameras.
Yes, but again, with the lockdown and everything, we are doing our absolute best to make things work, and the show must go on. So, all right. Good.
And everybody can hear us okay, right? I'm assuming so because you're writing comments.
Oh yeah, that's true. We didn't really ask. We didn't really ask how we're doing. All right, now, so I think I lost track of what I was saying. So, we're gonna be spending first 10 minutes left hand, B flat, bar chords, and then we're gonna start talking about the song. So the song that we chose for tonight were from a selection of a few songs that the Twin Cities Youth Club play, and we wanted to use that song as an example of how to start enhancing your sound in a group. Things that you can try, things that you can noodle with, going from very beginner type style stuff to much more advanced in some of the things we're going to be talking about. So we'll touch on all bases here. So we're at whatever level you are at, hopefully there's something fun that you can walk away with. Now with that said, don't be afraid to ask questions in the chat. We'll do our best to answer as much as we can. One of the things that really blew us away last Saturday was all the emails that said, having, even in the background, having us on their TV all day, it felt like we were all somewhere together with friends. Like, it really was a nice feeling of being around people, and how much that I didn't realize how much I missed that. Though we're all chatting remotely, there was something to be said about just spending an incredible amount of time like that together and consistently. It was amazing. So thank you guys again for joining us for that, and it was really really special. All right, good. Sounds good. Okay, so left hand, and again, this doesn't. If you're playing without pain, that's fantastic. The kind of shapes that we're going to over now are for people like me who found that whenever I heard a chord like this, I would start pinching harder and harder and harder until by the end of the song I was just like shaking with how much I was holding it down. And it always ended up being this little tiny muscle between your thumb and your palm. Now, again, the example that I used on Saturday was that, you know, this might work for you, this might not, but please give it a try if you're having pain. But a lot of times, a lot of guitarists especially, a lot of guitarists will say the first thing you do when you pick up an ukulele is you put the thumb in the back right there. Now, what happens there is your wrist will start to come across. And the reason why this is great on guitar is you need that reach. The ukulele is its own instrument. We're going to have to treat it as such. So instead of the thumb on the back and bringing out your wrist like that, and again, the good example is hold up your wrist like so. Keep that wrist bent and slowly try to make a fist. It's so difficult. So all that tension that you put, you were using the wrong muscles. You know, again, straight wrist, being able to make that fist. These, again, are all the things, all the muscles that we want to tap into. These are much bigger muscles in that forearm. Now, what I want to have you do is keep that wrist nice and straight. And actually, I'm going to stand up for this. Keep your wrist nice and straight. Keep it, let it dangle to your side. Hold it up so that it's nice and straight. Now, that notch right there, let it drop on your index, not in the palm, but right about there. Now, see how there's a little puka or a little hole right there? Think of that as an invisible egg that we don't want to break. So there's a little hole, but again, my wrist didn't change, right? I didn't do this and then that. I just went boom. All right, drop your thumb to the side. Now, from here, again, this I could do all day. The weight is resting on the index. My thumb is just hanging out. Now, what we're going to try and do, let's see if I can get this to work. We're going to try these chords. So we're going to play a C chord to a G chord. Now, even between those two chords, whenever we're looking at chord transitions, we're always looking what is the most efficient way to get from A to B, or from this case, C to G. Thank you. I thought that was pretty clever too. All right, so from that C chord, if I know I'm going to G, I'm going to actually prep my middle finger right behind. So here's my C note, my ring finger. Here's my middle finger right behind. The reason is, if I know I'm going to a G, I'm going to keep my middle finger down, bring over my ring finger, one string, and then drop my index. This way I have a kind of, not a pivot point, but I have leverage now using that middle finger to quickly go from C to G. I could do that this quickly because of that. If I was to lift off, you know, this back and forth, there's a lot of extra work that happens. So C to G, using that middle finger as your pivot point. Then I'm going to stretch for the A minor, middle finger out on the G. Index is going to drop to the F. Now, my index is going to be my new pivot point. I'm going to surround him for the G7. Now, my index is going to come off all the way to the G string for E7. We'll come down a string with the index, takes these guys off for an A7. Now we're going to surround that index just like we did with the G7, but now the index comes off. This is the Hawaiian D7. Now to get back to the G, I'm going to slide that ring finger up a fret and then surround him to get my G. I'm going to do this up close real quick. So from a C, I'm going to use my middle finger as my leverage point. Stretch for the A minor. Index down for the F. Surround my index for the G7. Index out to the G string for E7. Index down, everything off, A7. Surround, and then index off, D7. Now from here, ring finger is going to slide up, and these two drop to finish the G. Now, that's a lot of chords, a lot of frequent chords that we play. I want you to watch how much my wrist is moving when I'm going from each chord to each chord. C, G, A minor, F, G7, E7, A7, D7, G. It doesn't move at all. You know, when you're fighting your own hand, when you're getting from these chords to chords, that's where we're going to run into a lot of issues. So we have to be sure to keep that as efficient as possible. Okay, so again, part of it is that straight wrist, that leverage. Again, we're naturally wanting to make a fist. And as you see here, like on the G, this nice flat top. When you have fingers that are going way up with that kind of triangle top, that's when it kind of wavers and doesn't know whether it should concave or be rounded. We want that nice, almost like a fist, that type of feeling. Because again, that means we're using these bigger muscles to hold that down. Now, bar chords and B flat is a little different. Let's talk about B flat for a second. You're gonna see B flat a lot when you're in the key of F. It's the 4 chord. You're gonna see it a ton. So we're gonna practice getting to B flat from F. So let's hold an F chord. Now, a lot of times, the danger thing about the B flat is that, again, our wrist will pop out, and this ring finger wants to touch these other strings. So this is how we're going to get around that. Again, I'm hitting my resting spot in that corner, in that notch. That's why it's there. I'm holding, and again, this is also why we don't ever clip that A string when we're playing like an F chord, because of that angle coming over that edge. So it's going diagonally over the A string, so it won't hit the A string ever. Now, from here, what we're going to do is rotate to the B flat. And what I mean by rotate is I'm going to take my middle finger off. I'm going to take off my thumb for a second, and I'm going to kind of straighten my index, but I'm going to rotate my hand, my arm even, until the ball of my pinky hits about the 6th fret of the side of the ukulele. And my thumb can then kind of hold a little bit. I'll explain the thumb more in a second. But again, the rotation is actually looking like this. So here's my F chord. I'm going to take my index finger and swivel and rotate until the ball of my pinky hits the 6th or even 7th fret. I want this to feel like a stretch. One of the issues is if we only rotate this much, like to the 3rd fret, then everything feels crunched into that tiny amount of space. So from F, really extend the ball of your pinky to about the 6th or 7th fret. And as you see on my index here, I am using not the fatty part of my index, but a little bit more of the corner. So I want you to feel like if this is your base now, if this is where it's resting on the ball of your pinky, reaching back is what this is going to feel like to that 1st fret of these 2 strings. Now, with that there, the middle and ring finger will drop naturally exactly where they need to be. Yes, if your hands are smaller, again, you want it to be just far enough that it feels like a little stretch, but not impossibly so. So if your hands are smaller, maybe the 5th fret would be good. But for me, it definitely is around the 6th fret. So from F, we're going to swivel and rotate and drop. And that middle and ring finger should just naturally close where they want to be on that 2nd and 3rd fret right there. Now, as you see, my fingers are pointed up this way a little bit. That's totally okay. Now, the secret to why this really works well is we talked about how that ring finger wants to touch all those strings, right? Watch what happens when I bring the ball of my pinky closer to the fretboard. So I'll hold it this way. So right now, this is my wrist is all the way out. If I bring the ball of my pinky closer, you see how it forces that curve to happen. And this is a tenor scale ukulele. It's still mute A when I try this. Now, if it's the A string that it's being muted, then again, what we're going to try and do is focus on just those two strings before we even add the middle and index. So right now, in my left hand, there's only 3 things that are touching the fretboard. 1 is the ball of my pinky, 2 is my index finger holding the 2 strings, and 3 is my thumb. Between those 3 points, I can even hold it out without me with my right hand and still get those 2 strings to ring. That's how we're getting that leverage between those 3 spots. When we add the extra 2 fingers, it really is to help the tension, but also get those other 2 strings. But it's this curve that really, really comes into play compared to pinching with that thumb with the wrist out. So again, part of this is a natural just closing your hand. Again, part of the secret is that ball of the pinky just hanging out on the side of the fretboard and bringing in the hand like so. Now, unfortunately, there are a lot of entry-level ukes that will have an extremely high nut up here, which will make that first fret even harder to play than normal. That's why services, like MIMS or Hawaii Music Supply, they do an amazing job setting up ukes, even the entry-level ones, to make everything feel very playable. Can you show where the thumb is relative to the index finger? Yes, I can. So, is that about right? It's almost right under that first fret. Okay. Farmer guitar with isters. Oh, Luis, that's fantastic to hear. Yeah, it is one of those things where I just found myself just in so much pain after jams that I couldn't understand why, that was happening until I really watched other people playing how they were playing, the ones that were like spending 5 hours a night playing music. Now, bar chords. A quick review of what I went over during the live stream last week. Bar chords will be a little bit different compared to that nice kind of resting spot with the thumb. Again, we'll start on the 5th fret. The reason I start on the 5th fret to practice is, again, that first fret is going to be a little bit harder to do. So we're going to start up where it's a little bit more squishy, a little bit easier to hold down. Now, again, index finger, we're going to touch the A string. And when I say touch, that means if I was to pluck it, it wouldn't ring out at all. We're just letting it rest on that string. So I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure, a little bit of pressure, a little bit more, until it rings. How much energy or percent of your strength do you think you need to actually use to get it to ring? I would say maybe 30%, if that. That's all we ever need to make anything ring on this ukulele. I don't want you to forget that. So go from 0%, apply a little bit of pressure, just until it rings. Remember how easy this is. Now, from there, we're going to touch 2 strings, so the E and the A, but don't pluck the E string yet. You only want to hear the A string. So put pressure a little bit at a time until you hear that A string ring again. So I'm only focused on the A string. Now, index over 3 strings. Touching just the string so it's not going to make a sound. Slowly add pressure to that A string. Ah, nice. Nice and easy. That one felt easier for some reason. Again, different leverage points, right? Now, we're going to touch all 4 strings, but I only want you to pluck that A string, and we're going to go from scratch, from 0% pressure, a little bit of strength, a little bit of strength, a little bit of strength until we get it to ring. Now, chances are, if you can get that to ring, the rest of the chord will be right there when you apply the rest of the pressure. Again, what ends up happening when we're not paying attention is if we're holding a bar like this and we're trying to make it ring, naturally we're trying to make a fist. So that means we're putting a lot of pressure on the tip of the finger here. That's why you see a lot of your friends when they play bar chords, their finger is super white right there, all that pressure. So that means these two strings are gonna ring, but then it brings up that part of the finger. So what we're trying to trick our finger to be doing is applying pressure to this part of the finger to make that A string ring, and then let the energy roll off to the tip. Oh, thanks, Melanie. Oh, awesome, Eugene. I'm so glad that worked. Yeah, the B flat for me, it takes some time getting used to, especially with that rotation, but oh, it feels so much easier to get to. So, and especially because, again, we're going to B flat a lot from F, and having that quick rotation is always kind of fun to do. All right. Are there any questions thus far? So we talked about left hand hold. We talked about B flat, and extra homework assignment for you guys for the bar chords. So once you get used to that straight bar on the 5th fret, and you can do that cleanly, this is going to be a great exercise on stretching. Use your middle finger, go all the way out to the G string, 6th fret, and you're going to pluck each string. Then bring your middle finger down to the C string, then to the E string, then to the A string. Then the ring finger on the 7th fret, it looks like a B minor shape, right? Then the C string, E string, and then the A string. The reason why this is going to be such a great exercise to do is because this is going to start stretching out all these different combinations that you're going to see these bar chords in the future. A lot of times when we play a chord that's quote unquote hard, is not necessarily physically hard, but it's that combination or it's that stretch that makes it very uncomfortable because we're not used to that combination or using some of these muscles. That's all it comes down to. So part of this is really starting to get these fingers stretched out so that when we do find these bar chords, it's going to feel way more natural. Now, I know that there's some artist work students watching right now, so I'm sure you guys have this locked in, but I do want to talk about Aldrin Spider. An Aldrin Spider is named after, my great friend Aldrin Guerrero, who taught me this years and years and years ago, but we still do this exercise to this day. That's how incredible this exercise is. And I'm probably going to make you guys, a few of you guys at least, cry on this one, but it's going to be fun. Now, 4 fingers on the G string. 1, 2, 3, 4. G string is, of course, the string closest to your face. We're going to label said fingers 1, 2, 3, 4. Sounds easy, right? All right. We're going to lift off fingers 3 and 4. Boom, same time. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Easy. Now, we're going to take those 2 fingers and we're going to drop them down at the same time on the C string. So 1 string below. So we went from all 4 on the G, lifting up 3 and 4, and then dropping them down 1 string below. Then we're going to take 1 and 2 off and follow to the same string. 3 and 4 off, follow to the next string, followed by 1 and 2. 3 and 4 down again, followed by 1 and 2. Let's come back up. 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2. So you can definitely yell at Aldrin the next time you see him. Now, that's part 1. Part 2, let's reset. All 4 on the G string. This time, 1 and 4, index and pinky off. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. We're going to drop them down to the C string. Make sure they land at the same time. 2 and 3, off. Follow to the C string. 1 and 4, down. 2 and 3, follow. 1 and 4 down, 2 and 3 follow. Let's work our way back up. 1 and 4, 2 and 3, 1 and 4, 2 and 3, 1 and 4. You got it. 2 and 3. Now that was part 2. Part 3. A little bit harder. Take a deep breath. Now, good luck. 2 and 4. Middle and pinky. Off. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Drop them down to the C string, landing at the same time. 1 and 3 off. Follow to the C string. 2 and 4 to the E. Followed by 1 and 3. The chat got so quiet. 2 and 4. Followed by 1 and 3. Let's work our way back up. 2 and 4. 1 and 3. If you can. Yeah, your other 1 and 3. 2 and 4. 1 and 3. 2 and 4. 1 and 3. Not bad. Oh, isn't this amazing? So, it was such a great reminder, like how much we rely on these fingers. And we use our fingers every single day, but the way we interact with objects, the way we grab things, we have these innate pairings that we've relied on and trained for years. The ukulele has 4 strings. We have 4 fingers to manipulate easily. All we're doing is just a different combination, a different set. This is where, we can do all these different, or all it is combinations of your fingers used in a different way. I promise you, if you spend just 3 minutes a day, after 3 or 4 days, even a week, everything you do on this ukulele will feel that much stronger and that more supportive because of these stretches and these combinations that you're doing. We have to kind of regain our control a little bit, but it's just an incredible exercise. I really, these are the things too that when people ask, how do we practice? How did we get to where we are? It's not just playing songs all the time. There's all these little things that we noticed in our playing that we needed to work on, whether it was these kind of stretches or combinations of fingers or timing. But these are all the foundation building things that we need to focus on if you're looking to push yourself to that next level. So I hope, let's see. Da, da, da. Yeah, it's fun. I love things like this. We have a ton of different ones in our online school, and I have a couple more that I want to record for you guys too. But that right now is kind of where I want to leave you guys. Oh, I know there's so many fun ones. There's so many right now that I want to kind of go furthermore. But I think now I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to switch seats with Sarah so she can kind of go over the song. Are you ready, Sarah? I'll switch with. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, so I'll be. Do you want to come in this seat so you can use the iPad easily?
Fine. Whatever is easiest.
Okay, let me kind of switch gears now. Cameron is having a rough day. Now, what would you want, the song and the
Yeah, just
iPad?
that way you don't have to worry about switching anything.
Okay, sorry for the little bit. We have this so uh, planned out, but Cameron gave us a little bit of a of a little flying by the seat of our pants today. So iPad is gonna be on, boom, and then we'll have the chords up, boom. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna hand you guys off to Sarah. I'll do a close up of baby Cameron since he's doing good. Are you ready for the shimmy? Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy.
He's grouchy.
He is grouchy.
He's a grouchy baby today, everybody. I'm so sorry. Usually he is much, much friendlier. But that is all right. So, all right. So the music that we are using is actually the music that the Twin City Uke Club uses, and the original that I believe that was sent out to folks from Tony actually has the Nashville number system, which is really super handy. But we just did the first verse and a chorus with chords written in just in case. The original of this tune is actually in the key of D, but key of C is pretty rad. So we're gonna, and that's also the key that the club uses. So that's what we're going to be using. But one thing I actually did want to mention is I love Craig's method of playing B flat, where you do have that kind of where you rest it here and you're reaching back for it. I do also want to share how I play B flat because it works for some, but it also does not work for some. So just so that you have another way of potentially doing it, because remember, with any musical instrument, there's more than one way you can do something. So how I tend to play B flat is I have my resting spot. This finger hooks like this and covers two strings. Now, if you have an instrument that has a particularly sharp nut, this is not going to work well for you because you're going to end up scraping your finger. But this one that I'm playing right here, it's nice and rounded. So this comes over here. My thumb actually sometimes stays here, but a lot of times ends up in the back the way Craig's does. Like, whoops, like that. So I hook these guys in to cover two strings and then reach over. Now, the reason why I say this method doesn't work for everyone is I have very long fingers, and I think if you have smaller hands, this method will not be near as easy for you as Craig's, where you have this resting in your palm and it makes your ring finger arch more. Doing it this method, this finger almost looks flat, and you run the risk of muting strings. But for me, especially jumping from F to B flat, I like this because it's, for me, a very small movement. And again, I do have long fingers, so it is easier for me to do that method. But I just wanted to show you guys just another method that you could use, and you'll see what works best for you. So, and you'll notice too, I have a very steep angle going on with my fingers. So they're not like straight across, and they're not going at a different, Craig's angle is this way, whereas my angle is that way. So, let's see. So one thing I wanted to chat with you about is, I'm not sure, usually if we were, oh good, I'm glad that method works for you. Awesome. See, there's just more than one way to do things. The other thing I also will point out about B flat is you could actually do a substitution chord. Some of you already know this trick, where you have open to 1-1, where the G string is open, and that's a B flat major 6 chord, and it's a fancy jazz chord that sounds beautiful with your neighbor if they play B flat. In fact, if I strum B flat 6 and then add the ring, you don't really hear a difference. You'll hear more of a difference probably on a low G uke rather than the high G uke. So just fun fact, you could play B flat 6 and no one will notice. And you're also playing a more complicated chord when you do play that major 6 chord. So, all right. This song has fairly easy chords in it. You've got C to F, pretty easy. F to D minor, super simple, to G7, etc. There's also an A minor in this tune. So not super hard. So if one thing that you can do when you're at a uke club is, I'm going to set my uke down for a second because I'm going to actually do a little bit of writing. Oh, there's the pencil. So one thing that I like to do, and I started doing at uke clubs, was I would take a chord a week and I would pick a different place to play it. So you have your regular old C, right? Very exciting chord. But I could, oops, let me actually draw it in the space so you can see it. Give me 1 second. So, there we go. So we'll do this. So you have your regular C, but maybe I will instead do C somewhere else. So 3rd fret. Now I'm going to draw this one but not circle it in, and there's a reason for that. So this C, you'll notice I have a 3 written there. That means you're going to be on the 3rd fret. Now, what does this C remind you of? It should remind you of another chord that we have played today that you probably don't enjoy playing. I'll see you when the chat pops up. So, it should remind you of a B flat, but on the 3rd fret. Now, the one cool thing about C is this chord or this note right there is optional. It could be an open G string. So, if I do that, so here's my regular C that we all know and love. If I move up to make what looks like B flat, but I take away my ring, that sounds, put my ring back, you don't really hear a big difference. Yeah, so this is another C you could play. If you play a low G uke, this version with the open string isn't going to sound, I don't think it sounds as nice, but it is still an option that you can totally use. Now, you could do, somebody was asking, could you just do the barred B flat, right? Where you do a full bar on the 1st fret and then add 2 fingers. And you can actually use that method and move it up to the 3rd fret if you would like. You can certainly do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that barred method, complete bar. For me, it's not as comfortable, so I don't like using it as much. So it's a personal preference. And the reason I'm holding the uke so high is so you can see it. Because if I held my uke down here, you wouldn't be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm just doing this so you can see. Yeah, no problem. You're welcome. So back to the C though. Now, if I'm doing the full bar, I won't have an open G string unless I'm doing this, right? But then I might as well just have open 4, 3, 3. So I can use this as a new C, right? And then I would spend the whole jam always playing that C. But, so that one we said looks like a B flat. There's also, oh, I can see you. Oh, funny. Thank you. I love looking over at the chat. Thanks, guys. So I'm going to draw one more C. So the other C that you that you can play. Now, I'm going to draw it the easy way first, and then I will draw it a different way. Oh, somebody's asking, let me know where I can find instructions for the spider exercise. So this video that you're watching right now, us being live, is actually going to be recorded. So you can, if you subscribe to our channel, it's very easy to find the video. Then you don't have to go hunting for it. But it is archived, so you actually can watch this again. So you can go through the spider with Craig again as many times as you'd like, which is pretty cool. And you can also pause and rewind, which is another awesome feature. So back to this C. The easy way of playing this next C, it looks like G, but it's on the 7th fret. Okay? It actually comes from this shape. So I guess I'll draw this on the same fret. Now, if I were to pretend that this was where the nut is on my uke, the 2 dots underneath it, what chord does it look like that you already play? Let's see how many times it'll pop up in the chat for me. So I'm going to hold it for you just to kind of show you. So if I am barring the 7th fret and I put 2 fingers underneath, what do these 2 fingers kind of look like? It should remind you of an F chord. So my index is here and I'm making what looks like F underneath it. Nice job, gang, right? So the cool thing about all of these chords that you know in first position is you actually know more than you think you know, because they all end up being movable. So when people talk about movable chord shapes, this is what they're talking about. So you can take, if you have a chord that covers all the strings, you can take that and move it up. And you can do that with chords that don't even cover all of the strings as well. For example, that very first one, that C chord. I'm going to want you to hold that C chord with your pinky. And I want you to take your index and put it back here behind the nut. Okay? There's our C. If we were to take all of this and move it all up one, now I'm barring the first fret and using my pinky on the fourth fret. This is now a C sharp chord. If I was to take this and scoot it up one more, so now I'm barring the second, my pinky is on the fifth fret, I am now playing a D chord, right? And I can take that with that B flat, B, C, C sharp or D flat, D, etc., and moving it all up. So that second option of, or that third option of C that I have written on the 7th fret, if I took F and did that same thing, where I'm using my index here, and just scoot the whole thing up until I get to 7, you'll see that I end up at C. See? But because of what notes make up a C chord, we are able to do this sort of cheater chord because we can utilize that open G string just like we do potentially in that second position of C that I have listed as well. Does that make sense, everybody? So I'm going to go through the 3 C's, or actually technically the 4 C's that I have written. I have this C. I can also play on the 3rd fret, and I can choose to use my ring or not. It doesn't matter. I can play the 7th fret that looks like a G chord. Sounds pretty cool. Or I can bar that 7th fret and make what looks like F underneath. Sounds really similar.
And I just saw Daddy Joy Music in the chat, and I want to say congratulations on the new CD release. We cannot wait to hear it, Danny.
Yes! Awesome. So those are some different C's that you could potentially play anytime there's a C chord listed in this song or any song at your jam. Same thing with your F chords. So let me do, so we have your standard F, which is a very exciting chord. Or you could play F on the 5th fret. Now, that F on the 5th fret, does it remind you of another chord? Perhaps. It should remind you a little bit of that C, right? Which is kind of crazy, but there you go. So you know more than you realize. So we've got that guy. I'm just going to erase that arrow so we're not don't confuse it too much. And then another chord that we have is D minor. Now, in this song, going from F to D minor is pretty easy in first position because all D minor is just F with a friend, right? That's how I like to think of it. And does anybody know the relationship between F and D minor? I will wait just a second for the chat to kind of catch up with me. But F and D minor are related. Does anybody know their relationship?
Brother, sister.
It's the relative minor. So D minor is the relative minor of F. And what that means is that they share the exact same scale notes, except the scale starts on a different place. So your F major scale is F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E. Right? I could say F, but that's redundant. Nice. People were guessing it in the chat. Yes. D minor is the exact same notes, but you start on D instead of F. Now, this does mean that you are going to have chords that because they share the same scale notes, they are going to have, oh, there's a bottle in the sink, right? They're going to have very similar shapes. And also on your uke, there are certain chords that are going to look alike because of the relationship between the chords. I could go into that a whole lot, but this is not our chord theory class. That's a different class. But because of that, I like to notice that D minor looks like F with a friend. So anyway, D minor. And then there's another D minor you can play, of course. Oops, I am erasing and not writing. D minor, which is on the 5th fret. And it got a little dot right here. And that should kind of remind you of A minor in first position if that 5th fret was the nut. Now this D minor isn't always easy for folks. So you can sometimes play a very fancy substitution if you would like that can be easier on you. So instead, I could conceivably play D minor 7 instead. And so that would be just barring the 5th fret. Now I'm going to grab my uke and I'm going to play both chords, and we're going to see if you can hear a big difference between your standard D minor and D minor 7. So we've got D minor barring the 5th fret if you would like, with this ring finger reaching across, or I could just take him away. Put him back, take him away. If you're playing a high G uke, the difference is not going to be, it's going to be subtle. If you're playing a low G uke, you'll probably hear it a bit more. But that is an acceptable substitution that'll sound nice with your neighbor, and you could totally use. Now, anytime you have a regular minor chord, you could play its minor 7 counterpart. For example, if I have A minor, I could play A minor 7 if I wanted to instead. G minor, I could play G minor 7 instead. It usually sounds fine. On occasion, the regular minor chord will sound better to your ear. The main thing you want to do is just use your ear and play what you think sounds best. But it will not clash with your neighbor, and that's the reason why I bring this up, is so that at your jam, you could pull out playing minor 7 chords if you wanted, while they're playing a regular minor chord. And no one will be the wiser, and you're practicing new chords, which is always exciting. So then, unless the melody note is a C sharp. Well, it depends. We'll get into that another time. Because, yeah. Now I don't want to get derailed. So I'll keep moving forward. So we have those, and then I'm actually going to, the reason why I like bringing up chords and movable chords and up the neck is because I feel like if you learn your chords in different places, you actually end up sort of having the gateway to chord melody. So chord melody, for those of you that don't know, is you're basically playing chords and the melody of the song at the same time. And that's something that you could do with this song, with its little intro that it has. And I'll kind of write that out in a second. Let me go through a few other chords because I've only done C, F, and D minor. Let me go through G7 real fast, and A minor. I think we're actually going to leave A minor alone today for the purposes of this meetup. So G7. Your first position G7 is very easy. I'm going to write it really small. But then you also have G7 somewhere else. Now, I'm going to write 3. Okay, you'll notice that one of my circles is not filled in. The one that's on the G string is not filled in because you could play that note or you could have an open G string. It doesn't actually matter. If you play a high G uke, the open G string version is going to sound lovely. If you play low G, it might not sound as nice. But I like using both versions. But the cool thing about using the G7 with the open G string is that I can take my standard G7, move it up 1, 2 frets, and then just scoot up these 2 fingers. So now I'm holding open 5, 3, and 5. So the transition between this G7, moving it up, and this G7 is actually pretty easy versus doing this one and then moving up all of the fingers to make what should remind you of F7, but on the 3rd fret. So you can choose whichever one you want to use, whether it's this guy or, and I have to rearrange my fingers in order to add this note, but you can see the triangle here, and then if I add that note for that G7. But you don't really hear a big difference. That shape makes a nicer B flat 7. Sure. So you've got those 2 G7s that will work with, or those G7s that we'll work with today. There are more of them. And then I'm going to leave I said I would leave A minor alone. So what I want us to do is I'm going to go through and try to sing through the first verse and the chorus. And I'm just going to play plain Jane chords so that you can choose any of these chords to play along with me. So you can kind of hear what it sounds like. I would honestly choose 1 or 2 and work on those. That way you don't panic. Because one thing that I find is if you try to do too many new things at once, you end up getting frustrated or you just have trouble making it through the song, which is why I just say pick 1 or 2 and go from there. So we'll start on a C chord. Again, I'm going to play plain Jane ones, but you can totally, please feel free to play any of these versions that I've got written here. I know it's a little messy. After this live stream, I'm actually going to go through and rewrite it so it's a little tidier for you. So that when you go, I don't have it set up yet. I probably won't have it set up until Friday, or not Friday, Friday night. I will. Oh, okay. Craig just told me to let you know. Join our mailing list at craigandsarah.com/contact, and we will let you know when I have the PDF done, so that you can go to the website I'm going to make for it is craigandsarah.com/Twin Cities. That way you can download the PDF really easy. So anyway, get your C's ready, whatever C it is. And I'm just going to use the plain old down, down, up, up, down strum. It doesn't matter. Or I might just strum downs, actually, just to keep us in time. So about that speed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. It's a long and dusty road. It's a hard and heavy load. And the folks I meet ain't always kind. Some are bad and some are good. Some have done the best they could. Some have tried to ease my troubled mind. Chorus, here we go. And I can't help but wonder where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound. Let's do it one more time. Pick some new chords. It's a long and dusty road. It's a hard and heavy load. And the folks I meet ain't always kind. Some are bad, some are good. Some have done the best they could. Some have tried to ease my troubled mind. The chorus. And I can't help but wonder where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound. And stop. So hopefully you tried out some of these different versions of the chord, because being able to practice chords in other positions is always really handy when you're at a club. And oh, I just had a thought and I lost it. Oh no! This song is Can't Help But Wonder Where I'm Bound. And this is a song that was provided to us by Twin Cities Uke Club. So thank you guys for this, and thank you also for sponsoring this workshop as well. We love getting to work on stuff that clubs use. That way you can actually take what we are teaching you and apply it right away. So, yes, Greg.
Yeah, sure. Are we ready? Are we switching?
Oh, we can certainly do that. So I think Craig is going to actually take you through some picking patterns, right? So another way that you can change things up is doing different picking patterns. Before I sign off, one thing I just wanted to kind of show you that I'm actually going to put in the PDF, even if we don't get to it, is well, Craig will talk a little bit about the walk down that happens, but there's an intro to the song. And if you play in the second position, you can actually play part of it. So a simplified version of it is. And you can see I went through many of the shapes that are on this screen next to me, which is really, really handy if you can play in other positions on your instrument. So even if I don't get to that today in the live stream, I will make sure that that is in the PDF so that you'll be able to have that to look forward to. So now I am going to take Mr. Baby Cameron, because it is actually almost his bedtime, and I'm going to try to put him down and let Craig take it from here. So give me just 2 shakes of a dog's tail.
There's a little bit of milk left.
Okay.
Yeah, that could burp.
Good.
Here, mister. All right.
Hi, everyone. Okay. Oh, this is so much fun. Okay, so talking about, there's always questions of how do you know how to play a certain song? How do you know what picking pattern? For us, it's one of the best ways to go about it is to really think of the rhythm that you want these hits to happen. So the song itself is not your typical, like you wouldn't really do the calypso strum. I mean, I guess you could, but it ends up sounding like every other song in your book, right? So let's change it. We can do something as simple as, I love to use this because it reminds me of sushi, but the inside-outside roll. So what that means, we'll hold a C chord. And let me get rid of the iPad for a second. And we don't need chords at the moment. Yeah, nice. I love having a controller that does all that. Okay, so right hand, index and thumb. On your 2 middle strings, holding a C chord, thumb and then index, thumb and then index. So C and then E, thumb, index. Then put them on the outside strings, same order, thumb, index. So this is why we call this the inside, outside. Now we're going to add one element to that. Inside, outside, rest. Then we're going to go back to the inside strings, but reverse the order. So E string with your index, and then thumb on the C. So we're going to call this inside, outside, rest, E, C. 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 So even now putting that with the chords, you can hear how this really does start to change that vibe. Oh, F to E, yes. G7, inside, outside, E, C, inside, outside, rest, E, C, inside, outside, rest, E, C. Let's try again from the top. We'll go a little bit slower. 2, 3, 4. Inside, outside, rest, E, C, inside, outside to F. A D minor. I might have played that too long. That's okay. And then we'll go to G7. It's hard. It's actually harder to slow it down. I'm going to play a little bit faster now, back at speed, so I remember how long each thing lasts. It's a long and dusty road. It's a hard and heavy. Hard and heavy. That part's hard. Okay, let me try it one more time. That's tricky. I didn't really. I was not prepared for that. All right. See, so part of the hard part now is that syncopation between what we're singing and what we're playing, and this is where I call what I call TV moments. This is where I find something that's giving me trouble, and like just that 1-2 chord spot, and that's all I would do for 15 minutes watching television. I'll watch cartoons and just work on that tiny section until I can't get it wrong, you know. So that's what I call TV moments, where you just focus on ironing that out. So if we're doing that again, da, 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 da. All right, now there is a walk down in the song that is used a lot, and that happens from that F to D minor. F is very close to a D. So looking at the bass root of the chord, you know, F, and we can walk it down, E to D. So there we could do, and I'll go back to a simple strumming for now, just to show you how cool that walk down is. We have, it's a long and dusty road. It's a hard and heavy load. So that F, again, first note or first fret of the E string, we're going to walk it to the open E, to the D. Notice how I'm using my ring finger for the D note here. Oh, you can't really see that. I'm using my ring finger for the D note there because I want to finish with the full chord of the D minor. Yeah, I just noticed. Sorry. It's a long day. Okay, so F to D. Let's try that again. So we're going to walk down from the F note to the open E. Now, ring finger on the D note, which is that second fret of the C string. The reason, again, for that ring finger is so I can close up the rest of the D minor chord, and after I pluck the D, I can follow with the strum. Now, if you notice, the reason why this F to D minor looks so easy as well, again, this is the beautiful part about that angle when we're in that resting spot, like we talked about at the very beginning of this lesson. Because these two guys, because of that angle, they can fall right next to each other, no problem. When we're super up and down straight like this is where these two guys want to kind of fight over that same fret. So that's, again, the beautiful part of what we call violin fingers, you know, kind of down like this, compared to piano fingers. Now, that's not to say there aren't some times where I will switch up to how I'm holding it, especially if I'm doing something like this, an E minor with a stretch. It's much harder to do this way. But again, to start alleviating some of that pressure and the reliance on the thumb, you know, having that notch there to rest is going to be an incredible tool to have and to practice. All right, now, that walk down by itself is kind of cool, but it sticks out a little bit more than I'd like. What we're going to try and do now, let's flesh it out a little bit. So what we're going to do, let's hold the F note, but then let's follow with an A and then an E. So again, I'm going to pluck the E string with that first fret, and then I follow with A, E, and And then my next note in the walk down is my E string, open E. E, again follow with AE. And then my D note. Let's see. See, much more interesting, right? So again, all I'm doing is hitting the F, then the A and the E, open E for the walk down, followed by AE, and then the D note for the D minor. So we have I'm making it like a Hawaiian song. So we can apply that even if we're doing that picking part. So I went right back into the inside-outside row for that D minor. Again, and that inside-outside row is not that bad, right? This is how, again, we can apply so many little things to really make the playing stand out. And a lot of times we always think it has to be about adding things to make something more interesting, but a lot of times we're actually trying to take away a lot of the sound. So instead of that constant strum, we're trying to dissect it a little bit and really focus on what matters, like that walk down, like having these little kind of intimate moments that really speak out as its own voice. Now, if you're in a group, having a picking pattern like that can get a little messy. So one thing I'd probably try and do instead is even a simple kind of strum riff like that, where I'll pluck the C string, because for me it's our lowest note unless you're playing a G string, low G I mean. So I'd hit my C and I'd downstroke and then up down. So thumb down, up down, thumb down, up down, thumb down, up down. Now that does seem easy at first, but if you notice what I'm doing, I'm hitting one string, doing all four for the down. Then on my up, I'm only hitting the A string and coming down maybe on 2, maybe 3 strings. I'm not trying to do a lot of 4-string hits. The reason is, if I did 4 strings every time, not only does it sound too much of the same, but there's just a lot that's happening, and it's very kind of rough compared to and because of that, it has more dynamic range even within that strum itself, where it's a kind of boom cha da da boom cha da da boom cha da da boom cha. We sometimes forget how percussive this instrument really is, even with a strum. So when I talked about earlier about when we think of, well, what kind of strum pattern do we want? A lot of times we're actually thinking, again, how do we want those hits to come across? So like that for me was when I was listening to the original song, I was kind of doing boom cha da da boom cha da boom cha da, and really focusing on what parts I wanted to emulate with that strum. And because I'm only coming up on that one string, you still feel that presence, but it doesn't take over the strum. It's not trying to fight. It just leads you to that next downstroke. So there's a lot of times, again, taking away rather than constantly adding things will make things sound so much more textured, if that makes sense. Yes, Sarah does write really, really fast. Let's see. We did that. Before we go, okay, I wanted to end with so I know there's some noodlers out there that love to, when people are playing and they want to kind of pick along. For those of you who, I don't know if I want to start that whole thing, because that's like a whole nother hour of. Can you count the walk down? 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and a 2 and a 3. So it's like a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4. 1E and a 2E and a... Oh yes, it is all part of the F chord going to the D minor. So 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... No, that's is it triplets? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I'll write that out in a tab for you, and when we put the materials together for download, that'll be right there. Thank you for bringing that up. I want to make sure I say the right thing. I'm a little too tired right now to make sure. Sorry. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to bring up right before we leave, and I'm gonna actually call. I'm gonna be bringing up the group, the club leader in just a hair. But yeah, Doug, not Doug, David, thank you so much for bringing that up. I will make sure to get that written out for you. Tony, I'll be calling probably in about 8 minutes as a heads up to infuse you in the stream. Now, one of the great things about your scales, noodling, is that you can. This is the meat and potatoes of melody of all of these extremely fun things that we can do. I want to show you, I'm going to record myself because I think Sarah's not going to be able to come back and play this with me. So let me do this for just a second. One, two, three, four. Let's start again. So if we know we're in the key of C, there's no sharps, no flats. For those of you who do not know your C scale, let me write that down really quick, because this is, if you don't practice your C scales, I want you to start practicing your C scales. It's so important. Let's see. Let's take that guy. Boom. All right. So if this is your C string, this is your E, this is your A. Oh my gosh. Nope. So we're going to play. Let me bring this down a little bit. We're going to play an open C. Oh, I see Sarah changed colors and stuff. That's okay. And the second fret, which is the D, open E. Kind of a circle. F, F, kind of. Oh, come on. Let me do this. Oh, how come? Oh, come on. There we go. G. Oh, my circles suck right now. G. G. Open A. Oh, I should just do this. Duplicate. Oh. B. A giant B. And a giant C. Done. Okay, so so we have open C. Oh. Second fret, D. Open E. First fret for the F. Third fret for the G. Open A. Second fret, 2, and 3. So again, open C, 2. Open E, 1 and 3. Open A, 2 and 3. So that's our basic C scale. it is what it is. It's fine. No one loves scales until you start like doing fun stuff with it. If you guys want some scale exercises, send me a note. I have a quick video on like different uh things like that that will help practice the scales in a much more fun manner. Um, so definitely send me a note on scales, and I'll get you that quick video to practice with. Hi, how's he doing? Okay, good. So with that said, can you actually play with me then, Sarah?
Yeah.
Let me turn your mic on.
the volume down on the monitor.
Okay, I think it is.
Okay, good.
Okay,
He doesn't.
so that means I'm gonna put
Okay.
Sarah.
Oh,
in
they don't have to see me.
Oh, okay. So Sarah's gonna
As long as you can
do
hear
the
me.
main chords, which is C, C, F to D minor, G7, da, 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 back to
Back
C,
to C.
and then repeat from the top. Here we go. Now, all of that was like complete, just random gibberish. What I did was just pick notes from that C scale, but what I did was I tied in the last note of my phrase. And here's the secret. Okay, you actually don't. Yeah, let's do this. I want you guys in the chat box right now to shout out random notes in the key of C, which again, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. I don't want to see any sharps or flats. Go. Oh, okay. We're gonna do this together. This is gonna be awesome. All right, so I see a C, I see an F. D, A, F, B, F, G, E, F. Okay, nice. Now, once Sarah gets back, I'm gonna kind of play through some of these notes. Let me add a few more that I saw. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be interesting. Okay, now I see. I see another. Let's get some more of these random ones. I see more D's, A, D, two D's and a C. Then A, B, G, and that'll be a good start. We'll kind of see where this takes us. Now, I'm gonna have Sarah play a little bit slower, and I'm just gonna kind of play through these notes that you guys gave me. And if she doesn't come out, then I'll play that recording I just did. Let's see. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you guys hear this decently? Let me know if you can hear those chords. If that works, I'll play it from here and I'll show you the song that we just, or the solo that we just wrote together. Okay, cool. I'm gonna do this. Oh, a yes and a no. Okay, so I'll try to get this microphone as close to the mic as possible. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's start Now, pause right there because there was one part that sounded really nice. And that was the end. Now, there's a reason for that. Right now, that was complete gibberish, right? I'm going to make one change. And then, actually, and the G sounds great, but I'm going to add a C at the very end. Now, we're going to try it one more time. Because that was not the best. But now, I made one change for each line. Now watch how much this is going to change. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. Ah! Sorry, I played the wrong notes. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if we know the reason why at least it sounded a bit better than the first kind of version was even with that gibberish, we were able to tie it into a theme. That last note in my phrase landed over the root of the chord that I was playing over. And like T.C. Euchre says, there's not that it's nothing is necessarily wrong, but the reason why we can make things sound like it comes together is because of leading to that root. So, a lot of times I will assign homework where let's just do a quick 4 chords real quick. That's the C, F, G, and C. So if I was to take those first 3 variables and add just random notes in the scale, I'm going to go back up and I'm just going to pick these random notes from Wendy. I see a D, an A, an F, F, G, E, G, A, D, and D, C, A. Now, again, on its own, F, G, E, F. That sounds pretty good. G, A, D. So what I'm doing is that the last note here, the 4th note before the chord, so this row or this column is the chords that I'm going to be strumming over. The first 3 variables are complete gibberish. I'm going to add the root of the chord we're playing over. And with that, listen how great this sounds. We have D, A, D, A, D, D, A, F, C, F, G, E, F, G, A, D, G, D, C, A, C. Now again, there could be better phrasing, there could be things that get you there, but this is a fantastic place to start where you give yourself those 3 variables to fill in, but you land your phrase over the root of the chord that you're playing. It is such an incredible tool to just start. If you never really started picking before, this is a very, very fun way to just kind of get the ball rolling, especially in a song in the key of C and practicing your C scale. Now, not only that, but that also rolls over to when you hear us do some movement over the chord itself. You can add notes again in the key of C. F, I can add a C. I can add the B note. I can back to A. I can add my C, my D. I open A, C, G, F. I mean, yes, they all have technical terms that we can say that we're changing the voicing to or passing notes, but it all revolves around scales. That's why scales are so dang important to get under your fingers. It gives you opportunity to try. And a lot of times, music, a lot of this great stuff is created by accident. We try it out. If it doesn't work, we take it off. If it works, we leave it on. But again, we know that if the chords don't have anything weird in them, like an accidental, you can play anything in that C scale and it's going to sound pretty dang good. So every note in that C scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, I can add to the C chord. I can add my D. Sounds good. I can take it off. I can add my F note. I can take it off. I can add my G note. Take it off. I can add the B. Back to C. But again, that's the incredible tie-in of why scales are so important. Now, with this club, I noticed that you guys took the song that's originally in D and brought it down to C. You guys can play, with Sarah's lesson about, moving things up to the second positions, having these movable shapes. Don't be afraid to play in different keys, especially for singers. Sometimes singers, you need to change the key to make it easier to sing in, right? But here's the cool thing. If you could play your C scale, like Sarah said before, take your index finger, place it over this white bar here, so that's not really doing anything. Now, this time when you're playing your C scale, do open C, second fret with your ring finger, open E, middle on the first fret of the E, pinky on the third fret, open A, ring finger on the 2, pinky on the 3. So this time, anything on the first fret, middle, anything on the second fret, ring, anything on the third fret, pinky. The reason is, if we were to take that bar, that index, and bring it over the first fret, and we pretended now this is our open strings, so this is open C, then 2, open E, 1, 3, open, 2, 3. What looks like here C sharp is now actually being played now as a scale, a C sharp major scale. If I started on the second fret, that's your D major scale, one more fret up, third fret, D sharp, E, F. So regardless of the key, you can start playing and start riffing in any key that you want, as long as you start that shape over the root. So for example, again, that C scale starts on the open C, that's your root. If you start on the 5th fret, that's an F note, so this will be an F major scale. And notice again, that bar was there just for a visual reference. Eventually we want to be able, instead of holding the bar down, we want to just have our index traverse to the next string when we need it. So you can practice with the bar first, and then without. But this is how incredibly easy it is to, again, to get kind of started, regardless of what key you're playing in. Yay, we got one converter to learn scales. But it's not as bad as you think. And what Sarah said earlier too, yes, your index is pretty much a capo when you're doing that motion. That's exactly or capo, I should say, is moving those shapes up. The reason why we don't necessarily like capos as much is because if you capoed here, now you only have these frets to play with. it will make some songs with certain techniques much easier because you want to play off of those open strings, but you have a built-in couple for the most part with your index finger. Um, but yeah, that's exactly how it works. Um, Now I am, I there's so much that we could talk. I want to go on for like 8 more hours. Huh? Oh, I gotta call Tony. Sarah says call Tony. So, before we bring on Tony, I wanna say thank you guys again for spending some of your Thursday night with us. Thank you, the Twin Cities Youth Club. If you want to check out our website for more information on all of our live streams, especially the big one coming up on May 2nd. We have over 25 guests. It's for the mini fest. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. We have two. I think we're gonna announce our last three artists this Saturday during our tech rehearsal, um, which will be a lot of fun. But if you guys have the means to and want to, there's a donation button there to help us run more of these free live streams for y'all. But thank you guys again. I'm gonna call Tony right now so he can say a few words. I wish I had like 4 more hours. We could do 4 more hours. Let's see.
And let me just do it real quick.
Okay, I'm calling Tony right now.
Nice. And I'm just wanting to pop in to say good night, everybody, because I may not be able to come back out. We'll see.
I want to go on for like 8 more hours. Okay, now let's see.
Oh, I gotta call Tony. Sarah says call Tony. So, before we bring on Tony, I want to say thank you guys again for spending some of your Thursday night with us. Thank you, the Twin Cities Youth Club. If you
Tony,
want,
hold on, Tony.
check out our website for more information on all of our live
Tony, you
streams.
have to mute your speakers, I believe, because you were hearing an echo.
It's for the mini fest. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. We have two.
Oh, so Tony right now is not looking like he's coming through on the video. Let me try one more time, and if not, then we'll just bum 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 bum. Okay, so he is not answering. So we would like to thank the Tony for approaching us about this idea. Um, Tai Olapai, so good to see you. Thank you guys so very much. Again, if you're on our mailing list, we'll let you guys know when the PDFs are ready for download. We have again a tech rehearsal this Saturday and next Saturday, talking through with some of our featured guests. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We'll have some Q&A time for that as well. This was a lot of fun. We love teaching. We love what we do. Thank you guys for being so supportive throughout the years. Thank you. I'll stick around and see if there's any questions. But we had a blast. No. Oh, I know. We'll have to visit once everything settles for sure. And oh, I know one last thing too. So we teach workshops year round at festivals and events. If there were is there anything that you never saw offered at a festival for workshop topics that you've always wanted to learn or pursue? Those kind of things I love hearing because I love catering to what you guys need. And every festival that we do are always so different in what they need for their learning and what kind of direction they want to go. So if there's things that you wish someone taught or something, let us know so we can start kind of forming a game plan to create, a special workshop. But thank you guys so very, very much. Much love from myself, Sarah, and Cameron. And hopefully we'll see you guys on Saturday. Oh, and if you missed it, we did have our first live stream panel with the Ukulele Friends Hawaii group, and that included today Jake Shibukuro, Brian Tolentino, Herboto Jr., Halehaku Seaberry, Hoku Zuremeister, Sarah and myself, Brittany Paiva, Kama. It was a fun chat. We're gonna do much more of those. I think once a week where we'll be talking just talking story, really talking about things that we do to prep, talking about music, where we see Hawaiian music going, that kind of thing, travel tips, but it's just a fun, like 60 to 90-minute thing. On Facebook, you can find the group, again, Ukulele Friends Hawaii. I'll see if I can post a link in the description afterwards. Would it be possible to teach how to do the solos with chords? Chord melody, yes, we do a lot of chord melody stuff. That's definitely something we push a lot on our school as well. But we can definitely do like I did was the chord melody version of Melikali Kimaka on a public live stream, or was that just for Artist Works? Do you remember, Sarah?
I think that might have been just for Artist Works, but they could look in our files and see. You might have done a sample. But it wasn't the whole thing.
We just recently did a fun chord melody version of Melikali Kimaka, but I think that was for the school.
But I think you did a sample during the live stream.
Yeah, there's so much fun stuff in our past live streams. There might have been if we didn't do one recently with the chord melody kind of styling, but we'll definitely do one very soon because we love playing that kind of style. But yes, anything else? Matching rhythm to songs is something I like to get into on a broad variety. Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so very much. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and we'll see you very soon. This Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific, we'll be doing the live tech rehearsal featuring PD Mac.
PD Mac, Marlo, and Little Rev.
Yes, it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of time to catch up with those guys. And hopefully we'll see you there.
Yeah.
Aloha.
Aloha, everybody.